PadSplit is a technology company that helps you fill rooms. Think about it as Airbnb. What does Airbnb do? Well, they help you with the communication to the person staying in your home, and they help you fill your home. Ultimately, they get the lead. They get the money. That's what PadSplit is. Everybody thinks, oh, PadSplit will manage my home. PadSplit does not manage your home. You need to have PadSplit plus a property manager. And so I want to clarify that. And then PadSplit has a unique model of how they've decided to set out about it. They are doing they're doing furnished rooms, week by week rentals, so that people pay by the week, and there's no long-term commitment from those people. Now they're trying to change that. So by the time someone listens to this, maybe they will have gotten, they're trying to make people kind of lock them into a room so they don't just bounce to a new room every week, right?
Got it.
And they also don't do, they're not big into trying to create any community in the home.
Okay.
They're just, here's a person, they need a room. Yeah, by the week. And I think that leads to a little bit of like a boarding house kind of short-term rental feel. So the model that is my preferred model is long-term commitments. So someone signs for a year. Unfurnished room, because I believe the room in America in 10 years will be the new apartment. Like people will be like, let me save some money. I'm going to get a room instead of apartment. That'll be very commonly accepted in 10 years, like it is here in Europe. Actually, like I'm in Barcelona right now. So everybody rents a room in Barcelona, or in Berlin. I was in Germany last week. It's very, very common for people to rent rooms, right? America, it's coming. It's just we're not 100% there quite yet, but this trend is taking off. We're on the beginning stages of it. So that's a little bit. And then I believe in having common spaces for people to like co-work and eat and hang out and connect. And so we do things to create community in the home. So those are some of the main differences. But I want to be very clear. PadSplit is also helping solve affordable housing. I'm a huge fan of what they're doing. A lot of my students use PadSplit to help fill their homes, but they still manage the home with some of the principles that I teach, which are the community-based principles, the rooms, how they're held, and then some of the longer-term commitments. Like, for example, one of my property managers that works with me, he uses PadSplit to fill his homes, but he has an average length of stay of 1.5 years, which is like so much greater than almost anybody else that uses PadSplit because he uses some of these principles.
Got it. Okay. So are you signing year-long leases on these rooms then that you're renting out?
Yeah, we are on with my property management company. I own a property management company here in Charlotte and Asheville. We sign 12-month agreements. Yeah. Now they can do 6 or 3, just like a traditional apartment building, but it's going to be at a premium to the 12-month agreement.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. And who is your typical guest? Because I imagine it's probably not like a parents with 3 kids renting a room.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, so we call them members. So our members would be, on average in between 25 and, there's kind of 2 groups I would put these in.
Okay.
People between 25 and 40 years old. They're single. Maybe they got divorced. Maybe they never got married. Maybe they got a girlfriend that lives somewhere else. And they are getting started in their career, or maybe their career didn't take off as fast as they want, and they're looking for options. And so that's going to be someone in the lower age group. But then we've seen a huge 55, 60 plus. There's this sweet spot kind of middle age where people are maybe mostly married, or they're their busiest, their highest career earning years that we don't capture a lot of. But usually on the younger end and on the older end, people that are on fixed incomes, or going through the people in the middle we get usually when they're going through a transition in life. They got a divorce that they didn't think was going to happen. They lost all their money in something, and they're like, okay, I'm rebuilding, and I'm willing to make some sacrifices to rebuild. But the people that are more permanent or longer term are going to be the people on the people that I just described, and then the 55, 60 plus that are on Social Security, not really working age anymore. Maybe they've had some health issues or something like that, and so they're going to be willing to commit to something and make the sacrifices that it takes to live in a co-living home. But obviously all utilities are included, and it's just a lot cheaper rent.
Yeah. Well, and you're also kind of, I feel like in that, I hadn't thought about that age group. I was thinking it would be geared more toward the younger, but for that age group, you almost get all the benefits of an elderly care facility a little bit, where it's kind of rent by the room, similar model. Less wear and tear, I would imagine, longer commitment. They're not wanting to bounce around and getting new jobs all the time. And so I would imagine less turnover. So I would think that would be a really great sector to cater to.
They're stable too. And sometimes they're on fixed incomes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, how long do they typically renew then? I mean, what's your average lease length?
Over a year.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you average it out, it's over a year right
Wow.
now. But we kind of measure lease or length of stay just based on like per property management company. So my particular one is like maybe 11 to 12 months, somewhere in there. The
Okay.
one I was just describing to you is one that's in a bunch of cities, run by two guys. Their name are Jay and Franco, and they have even longer. They're at 435 days. So I think they're at, what is that, a year and 4 months, year and 5 months, something like that. So that's pretty typical to what we're seeing, unless someone's just doing a really bad job. If you're doing a bad job management, or maybe you're not following some of these different principles that we can talk about, then you're just gonna have people move out.
Sure. Yeah.
Or if you're not handling conflict in the home well, that's a big thing. Like, okay, if you have 5, 6, if you don't have some systems for like labeling things, or what happens when John does get mad, or Susie in room 5 starts smoking when she shouldn't be like in the room, or what, these different little things that can come up that wouldn't come up in traditional property management.
Mm-hmm.
How you
Yeah.
handle those is going to determine how long people stay.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that because, I think that's probably the horror stories that people think of when they think about this model compared to just renting a whole place. They think, well, I'm going to have to babysit people and there's going to be all these problems. So, how do you prevent that from happening? What are the proactive measures you can take?
Well, if someone's listening, I just want to say this for everybody listening. If someone's listening and wants to do co-living and doesn't want to deal with that, just I want to just validate that that's a fair request. If someone's listening to this and you've got a W-2 and you're like, man, co-living sounds awesome. I love the cash flow and I love the mission behind it, because there's a big mission behind it too, of solving affordable housing and frankly just helping people that are in situations where they need this type of housing, then you can get someone else to manage it.
Hmm.
Like there are right, like I just don't want everybody to default to I have to handle these conflict situations. I mean, I manage a bunch of my students' properties. There are property management companies that are popping up in almost every major city. Now, sometimes they're a little hard to find because they're not advertising or they're new or whatever, but I just want to clarify, like, this is a manageable asset. This is like a little mini apartment building in a single family home. And there are people who will do that for a fee. So you don't have to handle this if you don't want to. Because I still want to make this asset class accessible for anybody who wants to be involved. My wife and I own several hundred doors of co-living doors, and we don't manage. I haven't handled a tenant conflict in the last bunch of years. So, but as far as how we do handle it, okay, when it comes up, I mean, it really I laugh because there's just so many things that can come up.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it could be, and all of this does not come up. Let me see if I even have. This could be actually kind of funny. I'm going to scroll through because we have an SOP for all these things. So I'm going to scroll through, and I hope I'm not saying this to scare anybody. I'm scaring this because I want this podcast to be real. Yeah. So we have these scripts of like, here's all the things that could come up, and here's like the system that we handle all this. But I'm gonna okay. So we've got a whole flow for when someone's smoking in the home, and they shouldn't be smoking in the home, right? And that's going to obviously bother a bunch of people, with warnings and fines and things like that. We have a whole flow when someone is having too many guests over. Because we cap their guests at 5 per month, and they're not over. That's the limit of overnight guests. So there's a whole flow for that. There's a whole flow if someone's not locking the front door. There's a whole flow if someone's too dirty. There's a whole flow if someone's too loud. There's a whole flow if someone is stealing food. Believe it or not, there's a whole flow if someone's doing something where it's creating pests, like doing bugs or being dirty. Again, that goes back to dirty, or bringing in pets. There's a whole flow for that. Obviously, there's the whole eviction flow, and I'm just sharing. Let's see, there's a couple other ones here. Wi-Fi issues, different things that we have to handle. Yeah, so you get the kind of general idea. I could go on. But the general idea is, there's different things in this that are not in normal property management that we have to have a system for. And normally, though, to give people kind of a big picture outline of how we handled it, it's all in a membership agreement that everybody signs. And a membership agreement is different than a lease because it allows us to terminate people for like breaking house rules, and it gives us more flexibility. I don't recommend leases in this model. It also gives us a little bit more flexibility around restrictions about how many unrelated people can live in a home. So that's why we use this thing called a membership agreement. We have a bunch of house rules. They initial and they sign. If someone breaks it, it's usually like a warning, a fine, and then a termination. I mean, that's in essence the system. There's much more complex and detailed than that, but a warning, a fine, and then a termination if it continues to happen. Obviously, if it's something like violence or something crazy like that, we're just going to terminate immediately.
Yeah. Do you have to go through an eviction process if you terminate?
So if you use membership agreements, and I want to be clear about this because I've done both, but I'm not a lawyer and I'm not here on your show giving legal advice, but I'll share with you what we do. If you truly use a well put together, good membership agreement, something that we spent tens of thousands of dollars creating, you do not have to go through an eviction process. You can remove them from the home because it's a protected membership agreements. Membership clubs like fraternity clubs and some of these religious, they're protected under certain rules. They don't fall under the normal landlord-tenant laws a lot of times. And so with the membership agreement, we kind of get around that a little bit, not in a sneaky way, but in a way of like, we're a little bit different. People are signing up for us like they're paying dues, and they get all these other benefits in addition to living in the home, right? They get their utilities taken care of. They get access to yearly events that we do. It's a membership.
Right.
And we need to be able to terminate that right away, though. And so we have removed people from the home. We've hired private security. Now, I'm just gonna be real honest on the show. I don't think that's the way to go at scale.
Yeah.
You're going to get into some situations. Obviously, if you have to hire private security, you're going to get into some situations that are going to be intense. So you also can go through the normal eviction process if you want to, but it does give you more flexibility on how you deal with those situations.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, as you read through those scenarios, we created a document for our short-term rentals. It's similar in terms of like, this is what we recommend saying to guests in different situations, or how to handle different situations. Like there was damage to the property, or they want to book and they have no previous reviews, or, all these different things where it's like, they're nuanced, and you don't want to go in there and say the wrong thing, or, we learned all these from doing it the wrong way initially. But it's so helpful to have that document that you can just refer back to, because no problem's unique. Like the same issues will come up. Luckily it's not all the time, but you want to know how to handle it. So that's a great point. How much do you,
one big SOP document. One big SOP document for that type of stuff. It's good.
Yeah. How much do you charge per room typically on your, and then I guess, I'm sure it's different everywhere, but where's the sweet spot for this model working?
The sweet spot in terms of price per room?
Well, no, I meant like location, like
location,
market and that sort of thing.
So in Charlotte, we're going to charge anywhere between $650 for a really small bedroom with a shared bath that might not be super updated, to on the high end, $1,300 for a private bath, big room, maybe with a little private entrance or something like that. So that's kind of, I know that seems like a wide variety, but it really is a wide variety. And so that's kind of how and an average studio apartment in Charlotte, just to give people a reference point, is probably around $1,300 to $1,500, somewhere in there. So we found that but our prices are utilities all included. So pest control is included. You're cleaning the home once or twice a month is included. They're getting a lot for that price. I think there's a sweet spot on price, which I know not a sweet spot on price is going to be anywhere between 70 and 80% of what a studio apartment will go for in that city. It's probably what you're going to be able to charge for a room. Other ways to find out what you can charge for a room is just to go see what other people are listing their room for. Go to Craigslist, click on room shares, go to Facebook Marketplace, look for a room for rent, and just see, okay, wow, that's a really nasty room. It's going for $600. Yeah, that's a nice one. It's going for $800. That's a way to comp it, to see what to run your numbers in a city. As far as where this can be done, we've seen success in almost every major city in the United States. I mean, we have enough students now that we're in probably 40 to 50 of the major cities around I say major. There's not that many major cities, but major / tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities. But the markets that I like right now is like these markets where housing is high enough. There's a sweet spot between the cost of a studio apartment is out of reach for a lot of people. And the reason I keep using studio apartment is because that is normally the cheapest thing in any market for someone to rent.
Yeah.
Just baseline, right? Like obviously there's rooms, but like we're the ones inventing rooms and putting them on market at scale. I say we, meaning like co-living investors, right? So normally a studio apartment. So a studio apartment needs to be out of reach for a significant portion of what people are making in that city. And I wish I had more specific numbers to give you, but there needs to be a discrepancy there. Meaning, like, okay, if I go to a certain city, Charlotte is a great example. You've got hundreds of thousands of people that are making in between $15 and $25 an hour. And so they're going to be out of reach after taxes, or very close to being out of reach of a typical studio apartment plus utilities plus. And so you're trying to serve that gap. But, I had a student recently came to me and said, I want to go to this, I even forget the name of the town, some little no-name town in Nebraska. And I was like, you can rent a 2-bedroom apartment for $450 a month.
Yeah.
Like, don't go, like, there's not that discrepancy, right? So Is housing unaffordable? Is housing out of reach for a lot of people? You can call, another great way to find this out is just to call the zoning office of any city. They'll tell you, yeah, we're dealing with this. Here's the discrepancy. They can give you some numbers for every city. I just don't have off the top of my head. But, so I like Charlotte for that reason. Another really good city for us that we recently launched in is Denver. It's kind of becoming more and more unaffordable. We're launching this next month in Jacksonville. That's still a cheaper city, to be honest, but it still has a good co-living base because there's a lot of lower income folks there. St. Pete, Tampa has also been really good for us. A lot of Texas markets have been good. Houston, Dallas, San Antonio. So those are some specific examples, but I think hopefully that kind of framed up how people should be thinking about it.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think people tend to think that property prices and rent prices kind of move in tandem. And what I've noticed with short-term rentals is that's not always the case. Like you can find a place where, rent prices are pretty high because there's just not that much available, but yet property values aren't that bad, or vice versa, and so it seems like if you can find the place where studios are the highest price compared to the lowest average purchase price of a large property, that seems like the equation where it could work the best. It is how do you? So you mentioned 11 bedroom property.
Yeah.
Like, did you have to build
you can
that?
call 11 units.
Yeah. Okay, 11 unit property. So, did you have to build? I imagine there's not a whole lot of homes built with 11 bedrooms in it. So, how did that come about?
Yeah, I'll give your listeners a formula that we use that's pretty spot on in almost every market we've been to. So, we always say that if you bring us a 1,500 square foot home, that without looking at the floor plan, without ever stepping foot or seeing a single picture of that home, I know I can get 4 bedrooms out of that. That's just kind of like our little 1,500 equals 4 bedrooms. And then kind of what we found as a general rule is that every 250 square feet you add on to that 1,500 mark allows for another room somewhere in that house. Now, granted, there might need to be some walls added and some closets and whatever. I'm not saying there's like that many rooms already. I'm just saying that square footage allows this many rooms. And so my formula has always been, while also keeping at least one area for common space, for a little co-working, eating, things like that. That's kind of our formula.
Got it.
So let's just walk through the math. So 1,500 square feet is 4 rooms. 1,750 square feet would be 5. 2,000 is 6. 2,250 would be 7. 2,500 would be 8. 2,750 would be 9. A 3,000 square foot home, I just can get 10 rooms out of. The space is there. As long as, the only caveat to this, as long as it's not this insane open concept, 30-foot ceilings, they got a catwalk and all this stuff. Like, those are just hard to kind of cut up into the number of rooms that we need to. And so the house we're talking about, the 11-bedroom house, actually we have 2 11-bedroom houses, and one will be at about 3,200 square feet, and the other one is like 3,150 or something like that. Don't quote me on that exact number, but right around there. So it's just based on our formula. When you get to 3,250, there is enough space in that house for 11 rooms.
Wow.
So it's really the most important thing when someone is buying a co-living home to look for is, does it have the space? I care about square footage more than I do really anything. That's the number one thing I look for. Well, that's not true. I don't care about square footage more than anything. But square footage is the number one criteria we're going to look at to see how many rooms it could have.
Okay, got it.
But we are building. What you got? Don't get me on building, Kirby. We're gonna rock it into building. I just got county approvals for a 17 bedroom, 15 full bathroom duplex that I'm building here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Wow.
And I was so excited to get the county approvals on that. We're still waiting for approvals from the city for full transparency, but I hopefully we'll have that tomorrow. And the reason I'm building is because I can design it exactly like I want it from the beginning.